Welcome back to Lambda Test Appium tutorial series. This is Siddharth, and today we are going to have a very important session on framework, and this part is specifically focused on test data management with JSON. Right? In this particular session, we are going to cover 5 important things, starting with how to create a JSON file for test data. Second is how to create a method with return type as JSON object. So our main agenda would be to write a method which will read the JSON file, right? And the third step is creating a method which will take input as the key and return us the value. Usually the JSON format that we got in step 1 and which we convert in JSON object in step 2, that JSON object we need to fetch by using the key, right? So that would be our third step. Fourth step, how we are going to integrate this with our Appium script. So usually how we are going to call this method, right? And the fifth step is a very important one, and that is how we can handle a JSON array, because our data, test data may be in array format also, right? That's why we are going to lastly cover how to handle the JSON array, right? So let's start with our first topic, that is create a JSON file for test data, right? So how we are going to do that? We are going to create a folder with the name resource. If you remember in our previous session of folder structure, I have explained this, right? That we are going to have a resource folder. Inside that we are going to have a test data folder. Now what we are going to do, now the time we have to use that test data folder, and we are going to create a JSON file called as testdata.json. So a normal JSON will look like this, how you can see on my screen, username and the value, password the value. It usually like a key value pair, like how we have in our map, right? So let's do this step on our IDE. We're going to create a testdata.json file, right? So if you remember in our previous session, this is the script that we have created, right? As our first demo script, and we have executed it on emulator. So we are going to use the same folder structure, just I am going to add a testdata.json file where inside resources test data directory, right? I will right click over here, new file, testdata.json, right? So my testdata.json file has created. Now this file is entirely empty right now. I will try to put some value inside it. But before I will put value over here, let's decide that where we are going to use the test data. For that, let's go back to our script. So this is the script that we have created in our previous session, right? Those who haven't watched the previous session, please go and watch it, or else it would be difficult for you to understand. So in this one, if you remember, we have used one send key over here where we have passed a URL. Right? So usually we have hard coded this value, right? Because that was our first demo script. Right now what we are going to do, we are going to remove this hard coded value, and we are going to pass it in our JSON file, right? So what we are going to do, I am going to add this value in my JSON file. So let's see how we are going to add it in JSON file. So this is the value I want to fetch from test data. I will go to my testdata.json file. Always start with this curly brace. So here what I'm going to do, this is a URL, right? And this is a type string. So I have defined a string, and here I am going to provide the URL that I have used over here. So Control C, and I will put it over here. So now what we are going to do, we are going to use this URL over here inside my test rather than using the hard-coded value. Right? So I hope you guys are clear, right? How to create a simple JSON file and how to add the value over here. This is a simple JSON, okay? We are not using any array or anything. We are just using an URL value. Similarly, you can use login, password, anything you want in your automation framework. Okay. So till now what we have completed, we have completed the first step, that is creating a JSON file, and then we have also added some value to it. So what is our next step? Our next step is basically to use that JSON file that we have created and convert it into a JSON object. All right. So our main objective over here is creating a method with return type as JSON object. So this is a method that I'm going to use. Just to give you a little bit of preview, there are 4 important things we are going to do. First, we are going to pass the path of the testdata.json file. That means where we have kept our testdata.json file, we are going to give that path. Second, convert that JSON file into string, correct? Because we are using file, we are converting into a file, then we are converting the JSON file into string. Once we got the string, we need to parse the string. For that, we are going to use JSON parser, right? Because that is going to help us to convert the string into object. Once we have the object, it is very easy for us to convert it into a JSON object, right? So 4 important steps: file, string, object, JSON object, right? So let's try to use this code exactly on the IDE, and we will try to resolve the compile error or whatever we will get, so that when you try on your local machine, it would be easy for you folks. So this is the exact code that I have copy pasted from there to here. So those are the compile error we are getting. So the reason behind it is, to use the JSON parser, JSON object, and the file utils, we need 2 more dependency in our pom.xml file. Okay, so let me try to help you on that. What we are going to do, we are going to add 2 more dependency over here. One is commons.io. This is basically help us to use the file utils, and another one is JSON simple, which will help us to do the JSON parser and everything, right? So once we have added this 2 dependency, what we are going to do, we are going to load this maven dependency, correct? This one, correct? Once we load it, what we are going to do, we are going to come over here and we are going to import this. Import class JSON object, IO exception we will import. Always remember, you need to first add those 2 dependency, right? Because if you don't add this 2 dependency, it would be, you will never get this import options. That's why first I have added over there, then I come over here. See, here I am using the commons.io, and JSON parser is provided by JSON simple, correct? So 2 things I have used, JSON simple and commons.io. That's why I have added this 2 dependency on my pom.xml. So now I have the method which will take my file. Where is my file? Resources, test data.json. See, it should be exactly same. Test data.json, test data, resources, test data.json. Got it, right? And this particular line convert JSON file into string. This read file to string usually take 2 input, okay? The file and the encoding type. UTF-8 is nothing but the encoding type, right? And this one will take file. That's why we have done the step 15, because in line 17, read file to string will take 2 input, file and encoding type. For that file, we have done the line number 15, right? Similarly, when we are using JSON parser, right? When you use the parse method, it will take input the string. That's why we have done line number 17. Or else we have directly sent the JSON file into it, right? But the input for this .parse method is a string. That's why we have converted our JSON file into a string. And the last one would be converting your object into JSON object, right? This is the most important part of JSON reader. And in most interview questions, you will be asked this particular way, that how you are parsing it, right? Okay, I hope you folks have understood this one. Let's move on, right? So now we are done with this particular step where we are converting our JSON file into an object. Now what is our next step? Our next step is creating a method to fetch value using key. So now what is our main agenda over here? Till now what we have done, we have created a JSON file, we have done the JSON object also. Now our main thing is how we are going to fetch the value by providing a key. So now you may not able to visualize it. Let me give you an example. You want this particular URL, right? So now how you will tell the JSON file that, okay, I need it? You will tell JSON file that I need URL, right? When you say that I need URL, JSON file will give this www.google.com. Now in technical term, this is called as key. This is called as value. So we will create a method which will take input URL and give output www.google.com. That's the main agenda, what we are trying to do in the next method. That is fetching the data using the key, right? So now let me try to quickly copy this method, right? I'm going to copy this particular method and I'm going to paste it over here, right? So this is my entire method. I'm going to use it over here, right? This is the string, correct? String test data. I've just defined a string and I'm going to return a test data value over here, correct? If you have noticed. So what I have done over here, let me just structure it. So the method I have created is get test data. it will take input the key. That means I will send URL and it will give me google.com. So how it will basically do it? It will use the get JSON data method that we have created. That means it will use the JSON object that we have done in line number 22, right? And it has a method called as get value by giving the key. So this key we are going to pass as input parameter. So whenever we call get test data, we need to pass URL and it will automatically return us www.google.com. Got it, right? Two phase. First we are converting into JSON object. I could have done it in one, but I want to make it more easy, optimized to understand and everything, right? We will optimize it more during our further sessions where I will remove the throws and use try catch. So a lot of things we are going to do. So right now we are going to use this get test data method in our test script. That's what we are going to do in our next step, right? Till now we are done with this one. Create a method to fetch value using key. Now towards the most important part, how we are going to integrate this with our Appium script. So usually what we do, we use something like this. See, string URL is equal to JSON reader dot get test data URL, right? This is how we are going to fetch the value out of this method, correct? So let me try to copy this one. This is the most important step, right? Because this is the method we have created. Now we are going to call this method, right, and fetch this value. Always remember this key should be exactly same how you are passing in the method. Let's go to mobile test, right? And what I'm going to do over here, I'm going to define a string URL, right? I'm going to define a private final string URL JSON reader, which is the JSON reader, the class we have created, dot get test data. Get test data is the method that we have created, and what it will take input? Key. And what is our key? URL. I'm just trying to relate everything so that it would be more easier for you folks to understand. So here I'm going to pass URL and always keep it inside the double quotes, right? See, get test data, add exception to the constructor signature. Why it is asking this? Because we have used throws over there. If we would have used try catch, then we would have not faced this issue. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to do a quick fix over here. I'm going to move this one, right? You understood, right, what we are trying to do? Because we don't even need this one. Just for your understanding, I'm using this. Rather than what we are going to, we are inside this send case, I'm going to copy paste this one. JSON reader dot get test data, right? And we are going to add the signature over here into our method. Correct? Got it, right, folks? We are going to close it with one more curly brace and we are done, right? So what I have done, instead of hard coding the value, I have used JSON reader dot get test data, and the URL is nothing but the key. Now it will automatically pick this one and send it over in my script. Got it, right, folks? Now we can just execute it and we can give it a try, right? Let me quickly open my Appium, right? And we will catch up in a minute, right? Let me open my Appium and emulator setup and then we will execute it, right? Done the setup very quickly. My Appium is I have started my Appium and my emulator is also up. So let's try to execute our demo script that we have created in our previous session, but I have done a small change. What we have done, we are trying to fetch the google.com from testdata.json file rather than hard coding it. So let's quickly execute it. I am executing the script. So see what we are expecting. We are expecting it to start the app, right? And then it will go to the find place over here, and in the text it should provide www.google.com that we have entered in our testdata.json file, right? Once it passes that, we are done, right? We will stop the test case over there. Let's hope it will work. See, click on geolocation, find button is displayed, correct? If you can see over here, see, it has entered www.google.com. Right? That's what our objective was, correct? We are trying to fetch this URL from where? From the JSON file, correct? Rather than hard coding it, we are trying to fetch it from JSON file. I'm just stopping the emulator because I guess that's what our main objective was, correct? So it has entered the google.url, right? So now what we did, we have successfully created a JSON file, created a method, try to fetch the value from there and put it over here, correct? Now there is one more important section to it, okay, and that is the last one, how you are going to handle the JSON array. Because till now what I have shown you, that is a very easy format of storing test data, right? You will just key value, key value, key value. But when you move on in your framework, the complexity of data will also increase. You may sometime need to get an array of data, means you want to execute one test case with multiple sets of data, right? In that case, how you will do? Maybe your data will be something like languages, Java, FX and Python. Then how you are going to read this? For that, we are going to take help of another method, the same JSON object we are going to use, right? But instead of get test data, we are going to create one more method called as get JSON array. This one will return an JSON array instead of one value, right? So let me show you quickly that one on IDE, right? So this is the JSON array format. What I'm going to do, I'm going to go to my JSON, right? I'm going to paste it over here, right? And this is my JSON array, correct? This will look something like this. See, so this is then simple array in our JSON, right? So now in URL you have provided the key, it has returned you the value, correct? Because this is a single value. So any map like key value pair, it will work, but here there is multiple value, so we need to store it in an array. For that we are going to use this particular method. So this method will return this is returning a string. Now the new method that we are going to create will return a JSON array, right? So that's why, because see, in automation you need an array a lot of time, right? That's why only teaching or focusing on the simple JSON is not going to help. That's why I thought I will add this one also. So JSON array, again, it is part of JSON simple. We need to add one more dependency, but I guess we have already added, right? Yes, JSON simple we have already added. So now we are going to use JSON simple JSON array. Okay, so it will look something like this, simple.JSON array. We have already added the dependency, right? So we don't have to add it again. We have just added the import, correct? So now what we are doing in this one, I will just quickly explain it to you. We are using the JSON object that we have created in line number 23, right? We are calling that same get JSON data, the same method, right? We are getting the JSON object. After that, there is a method called as JSONObject.get key, the same one. Here we are doing JSON data.get key, right? Directly we are fetching the key value pair. Here for getting an array, we are using JSON array. Here we are using string. That's a simple difference. 29, 34 line. Line 29, line 34. Here string, here JSON array. So when I call this particular method, it is going to return me all the arrays, right? So I can understand it must be difficult for you to immediately understand the steps that I have done. For your ease of understanding, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this one so that you will get an idea how to call it in your test script, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly go into my test and I will put it over here on the top, okay? So I'm going to put it over here. So what this one will do, this one will iterate through the languages that we have put and it will return us all the languages, right? So it would be easy for you. It will print it so that we will get an idea that how basically it is working, right? And JSON array, again, it is part of our this one import static method that we have created. Iterator we are going to import and we are good to go. So now what this one is doing, we are creating a JSON array object and we are using the method that you have created, get JSON array. What is the key? Key name is again languages, right? So we are giving the key name as languages. So this JSON array is there. Now we are using an iterator. We are using an iterator and we are going to print each and every value that we have inside our languages, right? So quickly let's execute it. But I guess we have stopped the emulator. Let me quickly start the emulator, okay? Just it will take a minute. I'm starting the emulator. So my emulator is up and running. Let me quickly execute this one, okay? We will just try to focus to look into the system.out, right? For this Java, FX, Python is printed or not, correct? That's why I put C. Can you see, folks? Java, FX and Python. How it has picked? Because we have used, let me stop this one. How it has picked? Because we have used this particular method. which one? Get JSON array. So it's a simple formula, right? Here it is returning a string because it is a string over here. Here it is returning an array because it is an array over here. And how you are going to fetch the value from an array? By using an iterator. Got it? Right? So you can cut short this one also. Okay, you can just directly use like this. Okay, that will also work. Instead of JSON array, you can use like this. You can remove this one. Just for understanding, I have given this. We can make it more short also. Okay. But I hope you have understood how you can create a JSON file, how to create a method to fetch it, right? I will upload this project also, so it would be easy for you. This PPT will be available. You can copy paste the code that I have given. I hope you have understood this. Let's meet in our next session, correct? And meanwhile, you can just check out the other videos that I have created with Lambda test, correct? And you can also try to learn another things that Lambda test is providing on their YouTube channel, correct? And here are some certifications also they are providing. You can go and check on it, right? So let's meet up in our next session, which will be another exciting one on framework designing. Till then, bye bye.